Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome, dear viewers. I would like to invite all of you to the commemoration of the birthday of Bibi Fatima Al-Masuma, the program on Velayat TV. This is the first of the series of 10 programs for the 10 days of Al-Karamat. These programs are in her honor, entitled Lessons from the Lives of the Best of Women. It's with great pleasure that I would like to introduce to you our speaker for this program today. Her name is Mahnaz Shabbir. She is born in the United States and is a grassroots organizer and founder of Shabbir Advisors, an integrated strategic management consulting company focusing on planning, marketing, diversity, transformation, and education on a national and international basis. Mahnaz Shabbir is on the faculty at Avila University and has been a lecturer at the Command and General Staff College at Fort Leavenworth. She's a certified trainer for the Department of Justice Community Relations Services to educate law enforcement agencies and government agencies, and we know how important that is today in today's world, and school officials nationwide. Mahnaz Shabbir earned a bachelor's degree in business administration and an MBA from the University of Missouri, Kansas City. She is very involved in community not-for-profit boards, ranging from the Crescent Peace Society in Kansas City, Truman Medical Centers, Overland Park Police Board, and the Greater Kansas City Interfaith Council. She has written for a wide range of publications and participated in television, radio, and streaming broadcasts. So I also want to mention, my dear viewers, that she is my sister-in-law, and more than sister-in-law, she is my sister, my dear sister. So it's a great pleasure that I'm welcoming her to this program, and inshallah, we are going to hear some very inspiring stories from her and her journey that she has undertaken to be on this mode of continuous learning. So with that, Mahnaz.
Assalamu alaikum. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you, Sheher, for that nice introduction. It's my pleasure being here with you today. I am here to talk about lifelong learning because I think my belief is that you only stop learning when your life is over. So I'm actually a grandmother, so I'm still learning. I am still in the process of making myself a better person. So we always have something. We don't know everything, and so we have to take the time and become educated.
MashaAllah.
And I think that that's what our faith leaders have taught us. The women in Islam and the Shia faith, they have taught us that this is an important thing that we do. And it's our responsibility as mothers to teach our children as well. So the better that we are, the better that we can teach our children. And now I'm teaching my grandchildren. So alhamdulillah, it's actually pretty wonderful when you see the fruits of your labor showing up. And when they start, like my 5-year-old grandson is now doing Adhan and Surah Fatiha and all these other. So when we pray, so they come to my home twice a week during this COVID period because their parents need a break. And so we pray our salat together. So I have so I have a 5-year-old, one that's turning 3 next week, and a 2.5-year-old grandsons. And so we line up. What's that?
MashaAllah, MashaAllah.
Yeah, so we line up, and I have Zayn do the Adhan, and then the little kids are just repeating whatever they're hearing and making up their own sentences, but they're there. And I think that we are the example of that, right? And so we can take those examples from Bibi Fatima, from Bibi Zainab. So it's all important that we do this.
Yeah. Mashallah, and the thing is that you're there with them in the same city. So that is, something that is a blessing. It's a great blessing for you as well as for them.
It is. I'm very fortunate. Alhamdulillah. So during this time period, since I've been home with this COVID situation, I decided it was right before Ramadan too. So I figured that it's a good time to try something different. I know people have been talking about cooking this or cooking that, and I'm not a cook.
Yes.
But
I've been doing that too.
I don't bake. I don't do any of those things. But what I decided to do was to take some Quran classes so I can understand actually what I'm reading in the Quran. It's nice to have the English translation next to the Quran in Arabic as I read it, but I really wanted to learn more of the grammar so that I can understand at the moment. So not all of it is sunk in yet. I'm still working on it, but it's sometimes when I read the meaning as I'm going right into it, I actually teared up the other day on one of the ayahs. It just kind of hit me, like more so than if I went to the other side and read the translation.
Yeah. Yes.
So I think, and now the class I was in, I sent you a video of that. It's a class for just women that they're learning how to read the Quran and all the Arabic way of learning the Quran, because I've learned the Urdu way of reading the Quran.
That's right.
And so,
Zayd and Zabar.
yeah,
Instead of Zayd and Zabar, Fatha and Kasra.
Yes.
That's
And
great.
this is an old brain, and so this old brain is taking.
No, it's not. I don't think so.
But I think, one of the things that I have done, so I had worked in healthcare administration for many, many years. And then with the event of I felt it was important that someone like myself who would go down to the state capitol and give presentations on healthcare, that I should be able to do that about Islam. Because of those days, people didn't have a very good understanding. And since my accent is of an American accent, since I was born in the States, people were able to understand what I was saying, and they were more related. And so because of that, I just been continuously doing more presentations and talks and things, of that nature. So it builds those bridges, which led me to speaking, like, as you mentioned, at Fort Leavenworth, where this is where people who are in the Army go to school, if they are majors and they want to go at higher ranks. And so, since a lot of the U.S. Army is in Arab-speaking countries, it was important that they understand more about Islam. So it was important that I do these things. It was uncomfortable the first time, going on a military base and going through all that security. But I found that most of them were very thankful that I was there to help bridge the gap from what they were reading to actually meeting someone and asking questions.
That's really great, because we know after what happened to George Floyd, like there's like a big gap in what law enforcement does and, what people want them to do. And it's really great that you're out there teaching and training people on, like just understanding our different cultures and values and appreciating what other people have to bring to the table.
Yeah, and for most often, it's the first time that they can just have like an open conversation with someone. Like they've had questions, but they didn't know who to ask, or they could read about it on the internet. And again, we have to be careful where they get information on the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there are people who purposefully are putting misinformation about Islam. And so, but I find that, especially like with on law enforcement, um, there are situations that they're dealing with from different cultural parts of the world, and they're living in the city that they're policing, and they're trying to understand the cultural, because there's religion and then there's culture, and then when it gets put together, that's where there's some differences. So just because like I will tell them something, and then I will say, now you've heard from a Muslim, but there's 1.6 billion Muslims in the world, and so I try to say that you get a little small fraction of um, of what it's like, because the police. Being on the board, I've gotten to know police officers in different ways as well, and I wouldn't be part of anything that was not doing the right thing. And the police department that I do work with, they sincerely are wanting to do the right thing. So, like the board that I'm on, it's a board from the community, and if there is a complaint on race issues, that somebody felt that they were being pulled over because of their race or their religion, they fill out a complaint, and then there are people like myself who review the case, and we can give advice on how to deal with it. And so there are many months where there aren't. This is a small suburb in
Yeah.
Kansas City. Yeah, so they haven't had significant issues. But during the time of like for Eid and things of that nature, we've developed relationships with the police department where they come and they are doing extra patrolling. Not this year, during Ramadan we didn't have
Right.
activity,
The COVID situation.
but before in the past they would come, and during Muharram actually they were sitting right outside, and then they would come inside and enjoy some tea or some leftover iftar. And so again, it's developing relationships of education.
Yeah, that's great, Harry. That's great because one of the goals of this program is to empower women. And we are embarking on this journey of these 10 programs because we want to learn from the lives of the best of the women. And I know the title of your talk is Bibi Masuma at home and the importance of lifelong learning. So we are actually learning from your journey, like you have taken it on yourself to educate all of these people. And this is so inspiring and empowering to other women that they can also do the same thing, like in their communities if possible, go out there and educate, because as women, we have this, um, we are, what should I say, it's kind of like a more friendlier atmosphere, right? I mean, they don't feel threatened. As women, we can go and do our teaching and people don't feel threatened from women. That's what I think, I think it's like we would be accepted more in that environment than, like if a man were to go. What do you think about that?
Uh, yeah, I think because of being a woman, we probably have a better way of listening to what the question is, or what's behind that question, or where they're coming from. And I think because we have children and we're trying to manage all of that. So, I mean, we have work, and then but we have our children and their schools. And it's, if something is not going well at school, it's usually the mom that has to go in and
Yeah.
meet with the
Yeah.
teacher. But I give talks at schools as well. And one time, one of a Muslim friend of mine came up to me and said, "Did you give a talk?" And she named the school. And I was thinking, and I was like, "No, I didn't go to that school." Well, we came to find out that it was her daughter's teacher who had come to a talk that I had given at a church.
Oh,
And
okay.
so So she had heard me at this church, and then she went back to the classroom, and she took that on, whatever I said at the time, to make it easier for this Muslim girl in her classroom. And so she was asking me about coming to the school, and I said, well, I could come to your school, but I said, you can go to your school. You can go to your daughter's school and give these talks. I said, all you have to do is speak from what you know about your faith.
That's right.
Sometimes people feel that they have to have some kind of like a PhD in Islam or something for them to talk about their religion, how they practice. And they don't. I mean, obviously, bringing in more of the, history and ayahs and things of that nature. Again, you have to look at your audience. I've talked to 6-year-olds to, at the Command General Staff College, to majors, officers. So you have to know your audience so you can speak to that level. I still remember the talk I gave it at a first grade. I mean, and I used one of the six. I used this one little girl as an example of how education helps. So the teacher had contacted me and wanted me to speak for 6-year-olds because it was approaching the Christmas Hanukkah time, and she wanted to be inclusive of Emmett was he was 6-year-old. He was in first grade at the time. Now he's 20, right? But and I was thinking, okay, well, Ramadan was already finished. I said, well, I wish she had asked me about then. And then I thought, okay, Eid al-Adha's coming. I'll talk about Eid al-Adha. So I took a suitcase and I got little sandwich bags and I put pencils and stickers in there. And I took a sheet and a janamaz and a shawl. And so they had all the first grade class was in there. And I said, I'm going to tell you a story that happened a long time ago. It was in the desert. And I said, do you remember hearing about Prophet Abraham? And then they go, oh, yeah. So we go into this whole thing. And I said, well, there was a long journey. And that's what I had the suitcase, right? And so then we were talking about prayer. And I took out the prayer rug. And then Emmett came up. And there was a Muslim girl that was in his class. And so I put on the scarf on her. And so they demonstrated what prayer was. And so after we were all done and they all got their little bags of goodies, one of the little girls, as she was walking out, she said, Mrs. Shabbir, I know why there's a prayer rug. And I said, why? And she said, so the sand doesn't get up your nose. Yeah. And so I tell that little story when I'm talking to adults about how we develop certain things in our mind about what's right or what's wrong, or what we've heard on television about somebody, some other faith, and that we can educate ourselves so we can learn more. And here she was, this innocent little 6-year-old that actually was listening, and she came up with a good reason for why there was a prayer rug. And so again, it's like making sure that people have that opportunity so they can always feel that there's always a good question. There's nothing that is a wrong question. Because you don't want to stop somebody from asking, right? Because that's when
especially in our faith. Especially in our faith, Jafari faith, asking questions is encouraged so much. Starting with our first Imam, who would say, Saloni, Saloni, ask me. So that has always been encouraged, and it's really great that you're doing this. Like all of us are ambassadors, right? When we go out there, we are all ambassadors of our faith. And I was just thinking, like Bibi Masuma, she also went on that journey from Medina towards Khurasan. And one of the, the reasons for that journey was the eighth Imam wanted her to be on that journey to teach all along the way. He wanted her to spread the teachings of the Holy Alphabet along the way. So she was on that journey of teaching people about Islam, about the way of the Holy Alphabet.
Yeah, and so if she wasn't teaching, then nobody would know, right? So,
Yeah.
like when I talk about when I talk about Bibi Fatima, Bibi Zainab, people say to me, why don't we know about these women? They want to know why they have never heard of these, right? And I said, well, in some ways it's intentional. There are people who don't want you to know about them. But I said, I get my inspiration from Bibi Zainab, actually, because in the midst of all of her difficulties of what she had to deal with, she was telling people about Islam, right? And so whenever I look at whatever difficulties I'm having, I just hesitate. Okay, it's nothing, it's minor difficulty compared to what she had to deal with, and I get strength from that. But I love talking about her. I love talking about her.
And we see glimpses of Bibi Zainab and Bibi Masuma at home, because she was also out there. Like it wasn't as tough a journey as Bibi Zainab's journey. Like nobody can compare, like to that journey. But it was a very tough journey in those days to undertake, and she embarked on that journey.
And now this is a place of knowledge, right? This is where
place of knowledge. Yes,
the people from all over the world to learn more about Islam, and then we want to go there to give our salams to her. And it's a woman. That's what I think.
I know, that's amazing. That's amazing, and that's the beauty of our faith, is that there is really no discrimination as far as men and women. There is so much respect of women in our faith, and it's such a opposite picture out there. Like what people think about women in Islam, than like historically what happened. So, and you mentioned we can go there for ziyarah, but of course we can also go there to enroll ourselves in that hausa in home.
Well, that
and learn.
I'm in the pre-hausa program with that Quran class, so there's a Maulana.
That's right. So tell us about the pre-hausa program journey that you're on.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. So again, I'm a sponge. I'm trying to absorb everything I can. And, I'm not the A student. I am the student that is just, he calls on me, Sister Mahnaz, all of a sudden I got
that's really good.
Yeah, and I even texted him. I said, you don't need to call on me. But
no, that's good.
But yeah, exactly, because he is.
Teachers only call the favorite students. They don't call everyone. They call their favorite students.
He knows that he's got this American Muslim in his class, and so. But he's a very nice teacher. He's a very nice, understanding, and I'll send him a message privately about.
What's his name?
The name of the class. What's his name?
Yeah.
The teacher. His name is Maulana Mohsin Naqvi is his name.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he's in the Hausa program, and then he gets up before Fajr, because it's in Iran, and when I'm taking class, Kansas City, and it's at 6 o'clock.
Oh, so he's teaching from Iran. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So he's in before his Fajr. He's teaching us. And that takes something, right?
Oh.
And he takes and then he'll do like a little preamble before he gets into the lesson. That's educational, the importance of reading the Quran. So it's taught me a lot more than. I've developed a relationship with the Quran that I didn't have before either. So that I think is especially growing up in America, like my daddy taught me how to read the Quran, but it's the Urdu way of reading the Quran. And I
Right.
just read it, right? It was just reading it and get it done
Yeah.
and then have a celebration. But this is like a different level of a connection that every time you open up the Quran, it's like something new comes out that you didn't even, you may have read this before, but it's not the same way because there's so many layers. So it's like, so here you are in the very beginning, you're kind of down here, and then you learn something. So now the same sentence, it comes here. And then you learn something else, and that same sentence, now it's like here. And you just marvel at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala of, He has commanded a lot. There's a lot of commands. And I didn't even realize there were so many commands, It's, anyway, I highly recommend doing something like this because spiritually, you get to another level, a different connection.
Yeah. I know. So I have been on this journey of learning the Arabic grammar and, the Quran for the last 5 years. It's been 5 years. And you still like, there's so much that you can spend your entire lifetime learning and you will never be done. And I have to share one more thing with you, like during the pandemic, COVID going on, and, people are scared of losing their jobs and losing their businesses and incomes. And I was thinking, what if I lost everything, like what if I lost everything in the world and I'm penniless? And then I thought, as long as I have the Quran with me, I have like the biggest treasure and I'll never be poor in my entire life. So it's like such a great thing that Allah has given us that, we'll never be poor with the Quran with us.
Right. I totally agree with that. And there's another pre-Hausa program that's in Dearborn. And that isn't a very interesting Quran. I mean, the instructor there took like 3 weeks of talking about preparing yourself to read the Quran. Like,
MashaAllah.
I was like, when are we going to get to the first surah? Like, well, it's a mindset. It's a mindset of being ready to absorb that. And again, I think, I guess the blessing, we can look at the COVID blessing, is that since we have time on our hands, is that we are not rushing. There's no place to go except for being on time for Mahnaz, thing. And so, it has you look at things a whole lot differently.
So, Mahnaz, can you share with us, like, where should people go to look for these courses?
Sure. Well, they ended up in so I must have been doing something because they all came in my email box. So they must have found somewhere along the way. It was meant to be. Alhamdulillah. So Muslim Congress is doing a lot of them. And I'm trying to remember where I saw the discourse on the Quran. I'm trying to remember where I first saw that. It was, I think if you go to any of the Shia sites that have Hausa programs, and then you can look in and see, I know where I found that one. We have a local, in Kansas City, we have a Shia women's group called Casey Engelman. And so women put, they're all friends. And so they say, have you seen this? Have you seen that? And somebody must have posted it, and that's how I found that one. So
if you Google Muslim Congress, you should be able to see the pre-Hausa programs.
Yes, yes. Both of this course is starting. The registration for this. So this one that I'm in is 3 parts of this grammar program. So I already finished part 1, and now we're going to start part 2. And it goes for about 2.5 months, and it's like a Saturday, Sunday. But the new courses are just starting, so I would just keep an eye on it. And I believe, like in the fall, that's when the next one will be starting, because these courses go until August, and so the registration is closed. Because they'll send a book and explain everything. But it's all on Zoom. It's all on a Zoom internet, so it's not like you have to drive somewhere to go. And you have the advantage. The people that are in the class are from all over the country, in the States, Canada, and this the one is in Iran. So you have the advantage of all that. So
send me the link when the course is going to start. Send me the link.
Yeah, I did, but I'll send it to you again.
Yeah. I know how bad I am about opening emails and looking at messages.
But I'll send it to you again.
That's great.
I was like sending it to a lot of people because, again, once you know something and you know
that
you want to share it. You want other people to have access to it as well.
Yeah, that's so true. So you were going to share with us the story of you visiting QUM?
Okay, yes. So I was in Iran in the late 70s as a high school student. And my nana actually was originally from Iran and had migrated to India. But his son, my mamu, had gone back to Iran and settled. So we were under his, he was taking us around Iran as visitors. And then when we went to QUM, they had closed it down because they had to do a major cleaning in the haram. So apparently we were not able to go inside. And I was like not happy about that. Because now I'm in high school, so I'm like about 16, 17 years old. And I went to the guard and I asked the guard and I said to him, I don't remember this. My mama told me this. Do you remember what you did? And I said, no, what did I do? And then he told me this story. He said, you went to the guard and you said that you came from a long way to come to give your condolences, your salams to Bibi Fatima here. And so, whatever I said, it softened this man's heart, and he opened the door. So we were the only people inside, except for the people that were cleaning. And I remember, I know, I just remember, I mean, this is like 40 plus years ago, right? And I just remember just being in awe of the presence of being in there. And so something happened, something happened at that moment where I had that opportunity. So I have never forgotten, like once he told me that, so now whenever I see like a door closed and I'm like, I can't get through it, I go, I just have to ask, because, there's a possibility that door can open by just asking. And that's basically what I learned from that. She taught me that, right? She taught me to get by a closed door. Push it open.
That's so inspiring.
And that's what I've done. That's basically what I've been doing. Just keep on pushing the door. But, in a way that's not like pushy, like a negative pushy.
Yeah, right.
And in a way that there's a listening for it, right? Because even like if, let's say there's something that I'm seeing that's not like, okay, just this week, I got a message from a friend of mine who has, she's not Muslim, but she has a child, and she's white, and the father of the child is black. And so this child is a mixed black and white, right? So she was walking in a park, and she felt threatened by some people driving in a car that was going by. And she posted this on Facebook, actually. And the city that she's in, I know the mayor of this place. And I had talked to her about 2 years ago about that and it's very affluent. This is a very affluent city, the suburbs. It's like where you live. It's kind of like that. And so I had talked to her about the intimidation that people of color have driving through her town. And she didn't think that this happened. She didn't feel that this was happening. She said, "Oh, let me have an appointment that you can meet with the police chief." So it's not the same police department where I was on the board. This is a different one. And so I met with the police chief and I was talking to him about this. And they just listened politely and didn't do anything. Then I get this email or this Facebook message from this friend this week. And I'm like, see, they have not addressed this issue. So I went ahead and I copied what my friend sent on Facebook, and I sent it to the mayor right there. It was on Saturday. It was this Saturday. And she already responded. She responded later that day. She copied the police chief and the city administrator and said, could we meet with this person? And then I contacted her and said, are you okay with me talking to them? And she was, because she's not thinking, she's a mom. She's not thinking about, she probably would never do this, right? She's been living in the city for 10 years. She never met the mayor. She never did any of these things. But because this is her son that she's protecting. But it has to take something. So you have to keep on, you got to keep on pushing through until your voice is heard. And I'm hoping now that, given what we're living through right now in America, that this issue will now be addressed. The racism and this.
I know. Yeah. So what's also amazing is very recently, like I was reading about the imams and their wives, and a lot of our imams had wives that were from Africa. And so our sixth imam is married to a lady from Africa. And so the seventh imam's mom was African. I didn't know about that before.
I didn't.
So, yeah. And I think there's like two other imams who also have African wives. And so it's amazing that, they practiced, they made sure that racism, it's not connected with any of them, and they made sure that they were marrying into families irrespective of, how somebody looked, the color of their skin. And what only mattered was the character of the person that they're marrying to. And, it's lessons for us to learn too, that we need to have an open mind. We still have two boys, right, that are going to be married. And I still have two kids that, inshallah, are going to be married in the future. And if somebody that has a different color or a different culture, then we need to have that open mind that we don't discriminate someone based on the color of their skin, which I know that you don't and I don't. What really matters is, the faith that's in their heart.
Yeah, and that's quite important because of that's what our faith has taught us. I mean, not only did our spiritual leaders teach us, they practiced it, right? Because in those days too, it was very tribal. They just stayed in, they were just tribal oriented. And I used to think when I was younger, gosh, I wish we were all similar. Then we wouldn't have all these issues. But then when you look at that one ayah, it says, I made you into many nations and tribes so you may know one another. So it's telling us that I did this on purpose. So don't stay in your own little cocoon. And I think that's what's happened to a lot of folks as immigrants coming to the States or even in Canada, wherever this broadcast goes to, that we stay in our own little bubble. And if we stay in our own bubble, then we're not learning about others. I mean, yes, we go and we work with other people, but then we don't connect with them, right? And but because when I went for Hajj, a Catholic friend of mine said, Mahnaz, when you go for Hajj, this is Barbara, you let me know and I will help watch the kids. I mean, she just knew that was important to me, and she did. She watched the children so I could go for Hajj. And sometimes, like she was actually visiting last Sunday, and I was telling her I have my Quran class, so at 5 o'clock I have to be in this class. She was listening in on this. She was totally absorbed and participating in it. Wow. And so I mean, she was not obviously able to understand what was being said, the English part of it. And then I said to her at one point, I said, okay, so he's going into this whole grammar piece of this now. I don't get it, but he's going to call on me, so I have to listen to what he's saying. And he did. He called on me, Sister Hannah. And so I was having to listen intently. But no, it was so. Here's someone, because of my way of being. She's always been so helpful to me. And one other thing was, on one of my talks, there was a gentleman that later asked me if I would give him some books and any information that he could do some more reading afterwards. And so I gave him a couple books and a DVD on Prophet Muhammad. It was a PBS special, and it's on DVD. So I gave him that. And we just kept in touch along the way. Well, last year he contacts me, and he said that he wanted to let me know that he is a Muslim.
MashaAllah.
I know, alhamdulillah. I mean, I was like, totally did.
You made that journey possible for him. Just being the way you are, That's so special.
That I was like totally surprised by that, because he didn't ask me things after I gave him that information. And then he lived about an hour away. And so I said, well, I just want to make sure that you're getting whatever information, that you're getting the right one now. So all of a sudden I feel like a whole lot more responsibility for him, that he stays on that track, on the right track. But I think, or even, there was a woman in her 70s. She decided she wanted to be a Muslim. She did this before I met her, but she was in a nursing home, and her daughter lived in California, and she was her mother was very ill, and she knew her mother was going to pass, but she wanted to bury her mom as a Muslim, even though she was not a Muslim. The mother was. The mother's name was Binte Islam. That's Islam was
the daughter of Islam.
Yeah.
MashaAllah.
And so she didn't know Arabic. She just had taken the so she was quite old, and I felt sad that she was by herself in the nursing home. So I would go visit her on a regular basis. I even put the surahs in English for her, and whenever I would leave, she would hold my hand, and I would read a surah for her before I left, and she would just like listen very intently. And then the boys came with me one time, and they said, "Mom, how could she be a Muslim? She doesn't know Arabic. She doesn't know how to pray. She doesn't know how to do all these things." And I said, "It's not for us to judge. We are the least judge. It's in her heart of what she's saying." And so, and when the time came and she passed, her daughter flew out, and she wanted to participate in her mother's washing. And I just said, well, we have to first do like a regular just shampoo thing. You can do that piece. But after that, you'll have to step away and let us do the washing for her. And, whenever I go to the cemetery, I was just there yesterday at the cemetery. And so I see Binte, and I know that Allah has a special heart for her, because it was in her heart. And even at that age, that she was looking for knowledge. She was trying to reach that next level in her own way. So I think again, we don't want to be judged about others,
Yeah.
To be able to reach out. And I think all of the women, our heroes in Islam, that's what they did. They didn't say, "Oh no, not you, only them." They never did it
Yeah.
like that. They had to be inclusive, and that's what we need to be. I think we can take the guidance of that from them.
Yeah, that is so true, Bobby. So we are almost nearing the end of our program. And if you can summarize, like how women can empower themselves to open the door to others, so, like they can learn from us.
Sure. Well, if you have a daughter, you can start with the daughter and give the daughters a teaching of having that strength to participate within all the religious, protections. But I think that is an important thing. And then for ourselves individually, depending on where you are on that curve of learning, you can, if it's taking a course online, if it's talking with your neighbors. Like, I just moved into this new neighborhood, and I always do iftars at my house and invite my neighbors, but since we're doing COVID now, I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
So, but inviting your neighbors to an iftar, inviting them to your center. We have an organization called Crescent Peace Society here, and we had something called BIBI Masooma, where we just have people at a table and people just come and sit and ask questions. And I think you have to have confidence in yourself to be able to speak about yourself. And then also, as Muslim women, as you brought up before, we are less intimidating. But even if we wear a scarf, when I go into the grocery store, I know people don't know who I am when I go into the store, right? And so they could say, "Oh, there's a woman wearing a headscarf." Ooh, they could think that. But before we had the masks, I would walk in with a smile on my face,
Yeah.
Now communicate a smile, and
that's right.
It's harder.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about drawing a smile on my mask. But also a conversation with people, just chucking corn at the husk, and you have a trash bin next to it. I go, "Oh, this corn looks pretty good." Or even today, I picked up a watermelon, and I was thumping it to see if it was a good watermelon. And there was an older man doing the same thing, and he said, "What do you think? You think these are good?" And I said, "We won't know till we cut it open." So I didn't know who this person was. And I'm actually an introvert. I mean, people think I'm an extrovert, but I'm not. I'm actually an introvert.
Yeah, me too. I don't like talking.
I know. Neither did I. But the thing is that I think you have to say, okay, what's really important? And it's you sharing our faith. Once you realize that this is an important thing, because I think that's where also for you, I saw that coming through since I've known you for 40-some years now, I think.
That's right.
So that's important, that we have that confidence in ourselves, and that we share ourselves, and that's important. It's okay to share. It's okay to share. So just do that.
It's okay to share. It's okay to reach out to people that don't look like us.
Oh yeah, and then again, teaching our children this, because our children learn from what we do. If we say, "Well, we're never going to have these people in our home," or something of that nature, then you're teaching that to your children.
Yeah.
One time I was reaching out to the Jewish community, and a rabbi and his family, we were talking about having a meal together, and this rabbi observed kosher, and we're observing halal. And so I said, "Okay, you bring your kosher food, and I'll have my meat and vegetables, and we'll break bread together like that. So he brought his family, and the boys were there, and they enjoyed it thoroughly. The Abbas and they thoroughly had fun. So like a couple weeks later, I said, "Oh, guess who's coming? Guess who's coming for dinner?" And then I can't remember. It was either Ahmed or Abbas said, "A rabbi." It was something he just thought like, okay, it was normal. It was a normal thing, you know. So I think this is how we share ourselves. We share the commonality that we have as humans, and that's how they also learn about Islam.
Okay, so we can conclude now, Bhabi. And so, my dear viewers, I would like to conclude this session and want to thank Mahnaz Shabbir for taking out the time to speak to all of us and inspire us to go on this journey of continuous learning and to follow the footsteps of Bibi Masuma, that she went out on that journey to reach out to people, to meet different people, and to spread the teachings of the Holy Ahl Bayt and enlighten the whole world with that knowledge. So let's also embark on that journey of continuous learning. We can learn, it's at our fingertips now. We don't really have to go far to, or drive even to attend classes. All we have to do is log on to our computers, and there we are in the classroom. That's right, or on a phone. Don't even need computers. We can just do it on our phone. So thank you, Mahnaz. And let's finish by a dua. Actually 3 duas, 4 duas, and then we'll conclude. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, Rabbi zidni ilma. Oh Allah, increase knowledge for me. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanatan wa fil akhirati hasanatan wa qina azaban nar. Rabbi irhamhuma kama rabbayani saghira. ربنا هب لنا من ازواجنا وذرياتنا قرة اعين وجعلنا للمتقين اماما اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Alaikum salam.